Hello, thank you all for coming today. My name is Carl Baxter, and I'm a manager of reporting and analytics at Victoria's Secret. When it comes to MicroStrategy World presentations, I have always gotten the most value out of practical examples, so that is what I'm going to share today. A practical example of how we were able to incorporate images into our MicroStrategy reporting and then use those capabilities to transform our store operations, utilizing MicroStrategy not only as a reporting tool, but as an operational one. I want to highlight throughout the presentation how we were able to do all of this with IT consultation and partnership, but no changes to database tables or project architecture. I'm an advocate for using MicroStrategy beyond its core usage, and I hope our experience can spur some ideas of how you too can utilize MicroStrategy in novel ways. Before we get into the specifics of the project, let's first go over who we are. Most of you are probably at least somewhat familiar with our brand, but for those who are not, we are the world's largest intimate specialty retailer with a global footprint of over 1,300 retail stores in around 70 countries. While we built our brand on the push-up bras, fashion shows, and angels of the 90s and 2000s, our brand has since been reimagining itself, expanding into categories like athleisure and growing our award-winning fragrance and body care lines. Whereas we were once deemed a place that a man can feel comfortable buying lingerie for a woman, we are now focused more on empowering women and supporting their causes through our position as a market leader. As for me, I have been with VS for 7 years, and I primarily support our merchandising and planning teams. But our team touches many areas of the organization. As I'm sure many of you can relate to, when you get trusted at getting data, requests start to come from all over the place. MicroStrategy in particular has been my area of expertise since I started my first corporate job 12 years ago at PetSmart. And my degree was in comparative religion. So I knew absolutely nothing starting in corporate retail and decided I was going to have data make the decisions for me. And so I was forced to become an expert in MicroStrategy. When I left PetSmart to move back to Ohio, that's literally all I did was search for MicroStrategy Columbus, Ohio. So it's been my career here. The start of this project began with the desire to enhance reporting by providing more product images. As a fashion retailer, there is only so much you can learn about a product via descriptions and attributing. Think of this picture. How could you describe and differentiate between these shades using just words, right? There's no good way, at least not a way that can be quickly and intuitively picked up by new associates. Adding pictures adds incredible depth to our reporting and allows for visually identifying trends that you miss using text and numbers only. And we didn't completely operate without pictures, but the process required merchants to literally browse the website, take screenshots, and paste them into PowerPoint decks. Not the most efficient use of their time. That left most of our reporting looking a bit like this. Endlessly scrolling PDFs and massive spreadsheets. With such a diverse business covering bras, panties, lingerie, sleepwear, athleisure, swim, fine fragrance, and on, and needing to review domestic performance versus international, in-store purchases versus online, so on and so forth, our PDFs were getting too long and our Excel files too large. So we figured there had to be a better way. I knew that MicroStrategy has the ability to do picture attribute forms, but that was way beyond my skill set. And anyone working at a large corporation can probably relate to the hoops that would need jumped through to accomplish that. But we have a website filled with product images that merchants are already navigating to screenshot. So how can we use MicroStrategy to utilize these images in our reporting? I wasn't sure there was a way, but it surely seemed like there should be. So I broke down the problem into some very basic steps to see what could be done. First thing I needed to do was find a way to link a product to a URL of a picture of that item. We started off super basic here, having our merchant partners manually go to the website, which they were doing anyway, right? And copying and pasting a image URL, and we started to build our own little mini picture database, right? But we're a large company, surely we already have a database that links all of our products to images. So we went about trying to find that. Luckily, my boss, David Carr here, has been with the company for a couple decades and has a contact for everything. So we were able to work with our digital asset management team to get some new access in order to tie those URLs automatically for us. And that really opened up the project. Having the URLs to the images was all well and good to know where you could point your browser to, or to make our Excel files even larger, which we did. But the next challenge was figuring out how to have MicroStrategy render that URL as the image at the path. I honestly had no idea how to go about that and wasn't sure it was even possible, but I figured I wasn't the first person to try this, so I went to the MicroStrategy community to see if anyone there had already solved this. And lo and behold, someone had. Big shout out to Manish Gupta, who answered my question right away. It's a funny story in preparing this presentation. The MicroStrategy app for the conference has attendees. So I said, before I do this, let me see if he's here. And it's pretty neat. He was here. He stopped by, but he was not able to attend this. But it was kind of neat being able to meet him after, connecting and having him help me on this project. But back to the process here. After a bit of back and forth with him, because I didn't know what an HTML tag was prior to this, he walked me through step by step everything I needed to do in order to turn a URL into an image in a dashboard. With the hard part out of the way, the rest was basic data import and dashboard creation. Utilizing the data import function, along with what I learned from Manish, I transferred the URLs into image tags in Excel and created a simple cube from a spreadsheet. Being sure to change data type of the new fields to HTML tag. Along with item numbers in the cube that are mapped to our project attributes, we can then link in dashboards the URLs with any data set that has that item number. This was really beneficial for us because then any user that creates a dashboard then has access to it without going through all the changes of changing our architecture. In this picture, you can see I set different sizes, so you could utilize a larger picture versus a smaller one. Do they have to be fixed sizes? I don't know. I am not the expert on this, but maybe you can reach out to Manish Gupta or something. He might know. So once we had that data set, then we just went to just had to create the dashboard. Again, since we mapped to the project attribute, it was easy. Everything just automatically links. In here, we have the URL import is my cube. We have a schema queue with some metrics and a few attributes, and then we have a third data set there, which is manual season specific attributes that our merchants do. We have a bit of an attributing problem. So we have some manual systems out there that merchants can then on the fly, group products in non-standard ways and have that flow through to this dashboard. All of this could be architected to our schema and very, very well may in the future, but MicroStrategy made it really easy for us to see what was possible very quickly, opposed to dumping a whole bunch of time and money into a project that may or may not go anywhere. After adding a few visualizations, here's what we ended up with. Note that these are all very fake metrics because we are not allowed to show anything. But MicroStrategy, again, super easy to just replace the data set with, take out sales and put in metric 1 and, but you'll get the point of what we're doing here. So to walk through this a bit, across the top, we have the pictures pulling from the HTML tags we created in the earlier steps, keeping the focus always on the product. They're part of a panel stack where users can switch between reviewing what we call choices or styles. A choice is just, a style and a color. So style is just a little higher level of the hierarchy. Along with, so you see the top items, right? And then there's also a way where you can just see the top metrics for those items as well. Below this, we have a grid of data controlled by a selector, so users can pick by which attributes they review the business. So they can quickly, see performance by category, then switch to class or collection or any number of other attributes available here. And they can use the attribute data set, they can use these grids then as a selector, so they can quickly click through and see the top panties, top beauty items, top apparel, so on and so forth. Then they can, again, click on any of these. So we can look at collection, and then you can look at, look at like the top Dream Angel products, right, across all categories. You can scroll over and see the top 25 items. A lot of flexibility here, and a lot of insights can be derived quickly using the images. So one more demo here, get into colors. So remember that first slide when you had all those different shades of nude? Well, here, you can click through and see the different shades when you're looking at pink or purple, green or blue. One other thing is filters, and that's probably one of the biggest advantages here is being able to, look at stores versus digital, look at just your area as a merchant. And one of the biggest benefits is looking at the intersection of attributes here. So, all those PDFs that we talked about before, we can get top bras versus top panties. We can get how stores did versus digital. But what we can't get is, let's look at just the red choices and let's look at how our class performance for just our red product or on Valentine's Day, say, and what were the top items in each of those classes. So we couldn't do that in a PDF without making them thousands of pages rather than hundreds. So overall, a tool like this allows for the quickest data discovery by our merchant teams to uncover trends in the business that simply wouldn't be possible with static reports. Being able to add pictures adds another dimension that is critical when working in a fashion business where descriptions of products alone can't define the product. After unveiling these capabilities, people really got curious and started to see other opportunities where having product images could help. The instance that had the largest impact so far, and the primary focus of this presentation, relates to how our stores execute markdowns. Previously, when stores needed to execute a markdown, it's like, putting it to clearance, they would have to get a PDF, right, filled with style numbers and color codes as shown on the top of this page. But they would have hundreds of rows at a time sometimes. They would use that list as a guide to go through the store with a little handheld scanner and just scan basically every item. And it'll say, yes, it's a markdown. No, it is not a markdown. This led to stores basically scanning everything and relying on seasoned employees to know how to translate these descriptions and color codes to product on the sales floor. If items needed handled differently, then the merchants would have to go out of their way in order to provide images and separate external communications. The example on this slide shows that previously, for the highlighted row, a store associate would see they needed to mark down the Twist HW Cheeky in colors animal, and purple. with the specific color codes shown. This would require an employee to know, what HW means, which is high waist, if anybody's curious. What kind of panty is cheeky, and what animals are we even talking about? Below that grid, we see what the style looked like and how the store associate would need to know to grab just those 3 colors shown, leaving the other 2 on the floor. I think it's clear to see how the process could be very challenging and time-intensive for store associates and practically impossible for new associates. Once people saw how we were able to pull the images into reporting, the question was asked if we could use that technology to simplify this process, and the answer was an easy yes. With the legwork done of getting the images added, all we had to do was create a simple cube off of our schema. We already had security filters set up to limit stores to just their data, and they already had the library app on their iPads. So it was an incredibly fast process to get a prototype up and running to see if it would work. What we landed on is not the flashiest dashboard you'll see, but it is one of the most functional. There's no custom visualizations, not much interactivity. It's just a simple list of products with their pictures, but that's okay, and it's exactly what they needed. At the keynote, it really resonated with me, the talk of overcompensating, and there were times doing this, I'm like, I need to put something flashier in here. There needs to be some more technology in it, but this is just what the stores needed, keeps them on task, gets the job done. So the associates can filter on a few key attributes. They can see which items they need to mark down, about how many units they have on hand, which again, I took away 2 just cause to be safe. And now they have all the information they previously had from the PDF, but then also the images to quickly identify the product and get it pulled from the floor. The technical details of this project are so incredibly simple that that's really all there is to it. There's a cube with 7 objects in it and the URL data set bringing in the pictures. But let's take a closer look of what that means for our store associates. So let's pretend you all are just been hired at Victoria's Secret store. We have a big markdown event scheduled. And you'll only have a set amount of time to get all the product pulled off the floor, boxed up, and replaced with new product. You're only given a sheet of paper, and you start with the top line on this slide. So you can see it's a Body by Victoria bra, so you head to that section of the store. That's all easy enough. But then you're presented with dozens of different styles in several different colors and all in dozens of sizes. But let's simplify though and say you only see these 2 bras. So they both look, so what do we got here? We got BBV Core Smooth FLCVRG, right? And we see that the color name is Praline. So they both look smooth, so that doesn't really narrow anything down. But what color is Praline? Is Praline even a color? So let's see. I want a show of hands. Who thinks it is this one? Oh, only a few. Okay. Who thinks it is this one? Okay, wow. You guys maybe make better associates than I thought you would. Man. Okay, well, maybe we don't need the dashboard. I got to rethink this whole thing. Oh, man. But let's take a look at it, too. Let's take a look at it live. Hopefully this works well for me. So I have an iPad. We're going to test it. I think I already gave away the answer here, but. So let's hook this up. Okay, so here it is. Again, fake data for the presentation. So what a store associate could do here, again, we knew it was a bra, so we can filter. We can use our selector here, just look at bras. We can do our collection, and we can say BBV, Body by Victoria, and then there is our item there. So while you guys do have a good eye for distinguishing praline and marzipan, this would give you, a more straightforward way of getting the proper product. And this is something we're testing now too, which we'll double check just to be sure. We are starting to test with this now for the stores, because I mentioned they had a scanner they were using, right? They were kind of doing these and doing it together. Well, we have this, let's reset this. We're starting to utilize the barcode scanner. So if the associate isn't totally sure, they can still, where's the camera? Scan it, and then there it is. It pops that item up. If it's So yeah, we're just starting to test that UPC scanning functionality and if it really helps the stores. But so far, I've been impressed since I got this loaner iPad and testing it. It's been working pretty well. Okay, let me re-hook up over here. Okay. So, okay, we're up. So this whole thing, as I think I mentioned, went super fast, right? So to highlight exactly how fast we were able to do this, here's a timeline of events. We received a request to help in April of 2022 after rolling out the reporting the end of the prior year. Like the first report I did, we did in like December of 2021. So we got a request April 22, hey, I'm a merchant, stores are asking me for all these pictures of these items. Can you help since you got it in the reporting? And I was like, yeah, sure, let's give it a try. So we created the mock-up basically immediately. And then we set up a plan to test. We worked with a couple store op partners who visited a local store and showed them how it worked and gave instruction on how they could use it. There's no groundbreaking feedback off of this, like it wouldn't replace the current process, but it was a nice resource to have in addition to what they already did. Since that test was successful enough, we then tested it with 10 stores in June for our big semi-annual sale, which is one of the biggest markdown events of the year. Since the dashboard was so simple, it was a quick process to teach the field staff how to use it, and again, received positive feedback after that event. Given the success and lack of any real cost or risk in opening up access, we were able to work with our IT partners to push the dashboard to the library of all stores, and rolled out the new process to the entire chain in August of that year. So while it took a lot of help from store ops partners to roll out and make sure everyone had access and knew the process, the development itself and making it accessible to stores was all done in a matter of hours, like very easy. If we didn't already have basic MicroStrategy reporting in stores, that would have been a bigger lift. But since we had that base of MicroStrategy reporting, it couldn't have been easier. All in all, this process went from a curiosity to a new process for almost 1,000 stores in 4 months, which is pretty remarkable for how long projects normally take at our company. The reaction since has been overwhelmingly positive, beyond what I imagined after the initial lukewarm feedback. What started out as a nice to have, a good resource to accompany the main process, has become the primary tool, not just for stores, but for other home office and field staff working to execute changes to our floor set. Oh, great. Okay. So I'm not going to lie, most of my MicroStrategy success stories over the years have been more of a personal or technical success story. None have had close to the impact that this has had. Stores, visual merchandisers, and other field and home office staff have found it to be invaluable and is now pivotal to many different functions. Here are a few testimonials from the field to highlight that this wasn't something neat to do with no real impact. Not only does it speed up the actual work of completing a markdown, but it also gives visibility to planning the broader move, being able to view what is leaving certain sections of the store and how that space will be utilized going forward. We have a companion dashboard with this one that, this shows what's coming off the floor. We have another that shows what's coming on. So that way the planning is so much more fluid than it was previously. And the most common point of feedback, again, is how this helps to allow a newer associate to quickly and accurately complete their tasks, which I was going to say we did a good job demonstrating today, but you guys got it all right. So. You no longer need an employee with a ton of experience knowing the specific 4-digit color codes. You can now get your newest associate out there performing the tasks. And it doesn't end with markdowns. The stores request these, and now we do a test. A few stores might need to remove some product or put some out, or just have general direction around items. And with how easy it is with the dashboards, we can just, put a cube out there, put some filters for the stores and the products, and then it's out there for them in minutes. And that is where we are today. But we are still moving forward with improving these tools and expanding into new ones. So first to mention is testing the UPC barcode scanner. We'll see how that turns out. But again, it's a very low risk thing also. It still works totally the same without it, just an extra little option. Next up, but requiring more IT support, would be starting to incorporate transaction services. Right now, stores don't have a way to mark an item as complete and have that recorded for future sessions, or in some of our larger stores that have multiple iPads, if they can mark that it's been done, then it's easier to hand off work between associates and make sure that everything's being covered. And we'd like to give stores that capability. And once we open up transaction services, I'm sure that is going to open up a whole new pathway of projects for us. So we're excited about that. Last on the list, but certainly not the end, is just updating more store reporting into MicroStrategy. I don't know about you, but I struggle with getting 20 people to adopt a dashboard. So it's quite the task to get thousands of associates over all of our stores. But luckily, starting with this list, starting with that operational functional tool where they just get comfortable with the interface, is really going to help increase adoption because they're just comfortable with the tool now. So that is the end of my prepared remarks. I hope that was worthwhile. Do we have any questions? Yes. Transaction services, more of just giving them the option to mark it and then write it back to the database and then pull it back. And then that way, even field staff can say, okay, check, we got all these stores have finished. All my stores are done. This store hasn't done this section. I'm going to follow up with them. Why haven't you finished your work yet? Type deal.
What kind of use cases are you expecting to implement using transaction services?
Yeah, so that's the first one. Other than that, just little planning things we do in Excel. There's so many things. We're constantly building Excel tools, right? And then it's all that data just lives in Excel. So, what are some opportunities where we get that in MicroStrategy and say, okay, here's your last year sales, adjust a % growth. Here's your new number, save it off to the database, and then we can use that as in other reporting.
Second question. The database of pictures, it is in the same data warehouse, or you have a data lake separated from the picture? Because if you have many SKUs, it could be very heavy to load all those pictures into the app.
Yeah, the pictures, I can't tell you how HTML image tags work, but it's literally just pulling from the website. So the pictures here aren't saved separately in a database or anything other than what we already do for the website. It's just like saying, MicroStrategy is saying, hey, go to this URL and put the picture that's there in the spot. So I haven't seen any performance issues yet with it.
The barcode reader integration that you had showed, where when you scan a barcode, it goes where it goes in the item. Can you shed some light on it? How are you doing it? How are you integrating the barcode with the image in the dashboard? And that's something new to me. And where you not cache out how when I scan a barcode, exactly it goes to the image on the dashboard right away.
How do I use the barcode scanner? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, so you can set up a prompt in MicroStrategy. It's a kind of a weird thing. You can't do it in developer, I think. You can only do it in web, which is like an odd thing. But if you create a value prompt in web, you can set it up to the display style or something, be barcode scanner, and that just automatically then does that. So I just I have the UPC number in the data set in the background. And so I just put that prompt at the front of the report. And when you scan it, it just answers the prompt and says, hey, when your UPC is in this list, show the item.
So you manually gathered each and every UPC initially, and then you tied up it for each and every item. So that's part of your data collection. And then once everything is gathered, you had just let the prompt know which UPC is tagged to which item.
Yeah, we have that all mapped in our warehouse. So this UPC goes to this item, and so it's just our normal project attributes at that point.
Cool. Sounds interesting. Really interesting.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay. Well, that's it again. Thank you so much, and hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.